Welcome back to another countdown, and today we're talking about the greatest first baseman in modern MLB history.
You don't know how to play first base. Scott?
That's right.
It's not that hard, Scott. Tell him, Wash.
It's incredibly hard.
Today I'll be including retired players only who played first base throughout their career. So they have to have played at least 1,200 games at the position. So certain players like Frank Thomas, David Ortiz, and Jim Thome won't be on this list. Look for them in the upcoming DH video. And also for 19th century players, I'll be honoring those great players in a huge video upcoming soon. So for these rankings, I'm sticking with the modern era. But before getting to the top 15, there were so many great first basemen. I know if I don't mention a few of these guys, the comment section will completely implode. So I have to throw in a few honorable mentions. Don Mattingly. For a period of time in the mid-80s, Don Mattingly was among the very best, winning the MVP in 1985 with 145 RBIs, 35 homers, and 48 doubles. And from 84 to 89, he made every All-Star team. And he was also an elite fielder, winning 9 Gold Gloves. He retired with a .307 average and 2,153 hits. And like many of these honorable mentions, is a huge Hall of Fame snub. Will Clark. Of course, I have to mention Giants legend Will the Thrill Clark, who had the sweetest swing of the 80s and 90s. He hit .303 for his career with 284 homers and also won a Gold Glove. But Clark was a postseason machine, hitting .333 with several clutch hits. He finished his career strong with the Cardinals and Orioles in 2000, hitting .319 with 21 homers, and could have easily kept playing, but decided to retire, which kept his numbers small enough to prevent entry thus far into the Hall of Fame. Carlos Delgado, another Hall of Fame snub. Delgado was an absolute power-hitting machine for about 13 years, crushing between 25 and 44 homers per season in the late 90s and 2000s. He ended up with 473 home runs, 1,512 RBIs, and 3 Silver Sluggers, and finished second for the MVP in 2003 with 42 home runs and 145 RBIs. Delgado somehow only made 2 All-Star teams and only got 3.8% of the vote in 2015, falling off the Hall of Fame ballot. Tony Perez. Perez played first base for 23 seasons, accumulating over 2,700 hits and 379 home runs, mostly with the Cincinnati Reds. He was a key member of the Big Red Machine, averaging more than 100 RBIs per season from 1970 to 1976, consistently crushing over 20 homers per season. He hit 3 home runs in the 1975 World Series and had multiple clutch postseason moments, helping the Reds win back-to-back World Series championships. He made 7 All-Star teams, winning an All-Star MVP in 1967, and he was elected to the Hall of Fame on his 9th year on the ballot in the year 2000. Keith Hernandez. Hernandez was an all-around talent who could hit and field at an elite level for well over a decade and has more Gold Gloves than any other first baseman in MLB history with 11. He could also rake and hit .296 for his career with an .821 OPS. In 1979, he had a monster MVP season with a .344 average, 48 doubles, and 105 RBIs. Hernandez has 2 rings, one from '82 with the Cardinals and another from '86 with the Mets. He made 5 All-Star teams, won 2 Silver Sluggers, an MVP, and a batting title, and it's an absolute travesty that he has not been elected to the Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's not right. No.
Orlando Cepeda. I tried, but I couldn't squeeze Cepeda into the top 15 despite an MVP, Rookie of the Year, and 11 All-Star appearances. He was an absolute superstar for the Giants in the late 50s and early 60s and won the MVP with the Cardinals in '67 when he drove in 111 runs with a .325 average and 25 bombs. He finished his career with 379 home runs and a .297 average and made the Hall of Fame in 1999. Mark Grace. Mark Grace, a 3-time All-Star with 4 Gold Gloves and 2,445 hits, had a spectacular 16-year MLB career with the Cubs and Diamondbacks. He hit .329 in the postseason and was a member of the 2001 Arizona Diamondbacks championship team. Believe it or not, Mark Grace has more hits in the 1990s than any other MLB player, more than Ripken, Griffey, Bonds, and even Tony Gwynn. He also led the 90s in doubles. He was simply one of the best hitters and smoothest defenders of the 1990s and is a highly underrated talent that should have gotten a lot more consideration for the Hall of Fame, but he received just 4.1% of the vote and fell off the ballot.
What type of bullshit is that?
And finally, Buck Leonard, a player who would have easily made the top 10 and probably top 5 all time had he been allowed to play in the major leagues. Buck Leonard made 13 All-Star games in a 14-year career in the Negro Leagues, and the official stats that do exist give him a .346 career average, and he maxed out at .420 in 1938. He was a 3-time Negro League World Series champion and one of the most talented, pure hitters to ever live. And those are just the honorable mentions. Get ready for some amazing players as we jump now into the top 15. Number 15, Fred McGriff. My original number 1 all-time Hall of Fame snub before he was finally elected in 2023 was the crime dog, Fred McGriff. McGriff was one of the most consistent producers for nearly 20 years, crushing 30 home runs season after season after season. He ended up with 493, just 7 short of the magic 500. And if he would have managed 7 more home runs, he probably would have been elected to the Hall of Fame a decade sooner. Although he never won an MVP, he finished in the top 10 6 times, competing against bulked up hitters during the steroid era. He drove in over 100 runs in 8 separate seasons and hit .284 for his career, which lasted 19 years. He may have never been the literal best in the game, but his unbelievable consistency makes Fred McGriff one of the better first basemen to ever play the game. Number 14, Ernie Banks. A surprising entry since most fans remember Ernie Banks as a shortstop, but he played in 1,259 games at first base after first playing the position in 1961 and then moving there permanently in 62. Although his best years were at shortstop, he still made 5 All-Star games as a first baseman, and he also tied an MLB record with putouts in a single game for a first baseman with 22. For his career, Banks was an all-time great, crushing 512 home runs, winning back-to-back MVPs in 1958 and 1959, and he was an Iron Man who played nearly every day. At one point, he played in 717 consecutive games. Even though he didn't move to first base until after his best seasons, I'm still considering him a first baseman since he passed the 1,200 game threshold, and he became an excellent defender at first, which is not surprising since he won a Gold Glove as a shortstop. He was the Cubs' starting first baseman for nearly the entire decade of the 1960s. Number 13, George Sisler. For a 7-year period, George Sisler was one of the best players in the game for the St. Louis Browns, and it started in 1916 when he hit .305 and just kept getting better from there. He hit .353 in 1917, .407 in 1920, and maxed out at an insane .420 batting average in 1922, a season in which he obviously won the MVP. He had over 200 hits for 3 straight seasons, including an MLB record 257 in 1920, a record that was not broken until Ichiro came along in 2004. But after that MVP season, Sisler fell ill with sinusitis and his vision began to deteriorate. He was seeing with double vision and doctors said he would never play again. Sisler had surgery and missed all of 1923, but returned in 24, and despite limited vision and having to squint just to see the ball, he could still hit and hit .345 in 1925 and played another 7 seasons, finishing his career with a .340 average and 2,812 hits. Number 12, Bill Terry. Bill Terry had a relatively short career but made the most of it, hitting well over 300 almost every season, all with the New York Giants. He became their everyday first baseman in 1927 and hit .326. A couple years later, he hit .372, then in 1930, topped 400 with a league-leading .401 mark. He also led the league with 254 hits, but it happened the same year that Hack Wilson drove in 191 runs and crushed 56 homers, so Terry fell short for the MVP. but he did finish in the top 10 for MVP for 7 straight seasons. In 1924, he hit .429 in the World Series, but his Giants fell short, although he did eventually win a ring in 1933. Terry made 3 All-Star teams and would have made many more if they existed during the majority of his career. He retired with a .341 career batting average, 18th all-time. Terry was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1954.
And I'll say one thing for you. You've done a great job as manager, and you've got a great ball club. But we are going to give you a battle. And may the best club win, man.
Thanks, Bill, very much.
Number 11, Johnny Mize. Mize played for 15 seasons in Major League Baseball, but missed out on 3 due to military service during World War II. He was a powerful left-handed slugger who played for the Cardinals, Giants, and Yankees. Mize led the league in home runs 4 times, maxing out with 51 bombs in 1947. He was also a fantastic hitter in general, hitting over 300 every year for the first 9 seasons of his career. In 1939, he hit .349 with a 1,070 OPS, but finished second for the MVP. Then in 1940, he was even better with 43 bombs and 137 RBIs, but finished in second place again and never did win an MVP, although he was one of the best players in the game for about 10 years. He also hit 3 home runs in a game, an MLB record 6 times, and retired with a .312 average and 359 home runs. Number 10, Raphael Palmeiro. This is going to be a controversial entry, but I don't know how I keep him out of the top 15 after a 20-year career in which he collected 3 Gold Gloves, over 3,000 hits, and 569 career home runs. Palmeiro famously wagged his finger at a hearing in which he stated that he had never used steroids, then promptly failed a steroid test.
You blew it!
But Raphael Palmeiro is still one of the greatest first basemen to ever play, even if we don't know how much steroids really propelled his stats. And that's the unfortunate reality of the steroid era. So I'm just going to rank players for what they did on the field, and Palmeiro is the only player on this list with 500 home runs and 3,000 hits. He surprisingly made just 4 All-Star teams and never won a World Series or MVP, but was a consistent producer for 20 years. And so, to be fair, since you know Barry Bonds is going to be on my left fielder list, I gotta add Raphael Palmeiro's name. Number 9, Mark Maguire. And that goes for number 9 as well. Mark Maguire, who I put a little bit higher than Palmeiro because of his insane star power and ridiculous peak, which yes, was steroid propelled. But Mark Maguire was a huge prospect, taken in the first round in '84, and was expected to be a great home run hitter. He had a monster first year, crushing a rookie record 49 bombs, winning the Rookie of the Year award, and became an absolute superstar in Oakland, crushing over 30 home runs every year that he stayed healthy. In 1996, he smashed 52 bombs with an insane 1,168 OPS. As the steroid era was well underway, he finished 7th for the MVP because players like A-Rod and Juan Gonzalez were also juicing and they beat him out. But in 1998, Mark Maguire, along with Sammy Sosa, made headlines all across the country and the world as they chased Roger Maris's single-season record of 61 home runs. Mark Maguire broke the record and ended up crushing 70 home runs, an unthinkable number. Then hit 65 the next year. He made 12 All-Star games during his career and would have been an easy first-ballot Hall of Famer if not for the juice. Number 8, Joey Votto. Up next is Cincinnati Reds legendary first baseman Joey Votto, who ranks 5th all-time among first basemen with a .409 on-base percentage. He had plate discipline like no one else throughout his career and led the league in on-base percentage 7 times. Working walks with frequency but also punishing mistakes with 356 career home runs and a .294 batting average. He won an MVP in 2010, smashing 37 home runs with a 1,024 OPS, leading the Reds to the playoffs. In 2011, he won a Gold Glove, and in 2012, led the Reds back to the postseason with a .337 average and league-leading .474 on-base percentage. He made 6 total All-Star teams and finished his career with 2,135 hits and a .920 OPS. He's definitely a future Hall of Famer. The only question is whether or not he gets in on the first ballot. Number 7, Todd Helton. Up next is Colorado Rockies legend Todd Helton, who was gifted with the glove, but even better with the bat. He won 3 Gold Gloves, but could hit like few others, especially in the early 2000s. In 2000, he hit .372 over 160 games, a feat that almost seems impossible against modern-day pitching. That year, he drove in 147 runs, crushed 42 homers, and had a league-leading 59 doubles. It was a season that would have normally earned him an easy MVP, but voters held it against him that he played at Coors Field. In 2003, he hit .358 with 32 bombs, but fell short of the MVP again, competing with the likes of Barry Bonds and Albert Pujols. In his 17-year career, he hit .316 with 369 home runs, 4 Silver Sluggers, and 5 All-Star selections, and was elected to the Hall of Fame in 2024. Number 6, Willie McCovey. We have Stretch Willie McCovey, the longtime San Francisco Giant who played in 4 different decades and 22 years in total. He won a Rookie of the Year in 1959 with an insane .354 batting average, but hadn't even tapped into his power yet. That would happen in 1963 when he crushed 44 bombs to match his number, a league-leading amount of homers. He had massive power, and Bob Gibson called him the scariest hitter in baseball. In 1969, he had an absolute monster MVP season, crushing 45 homers with 126 RBIs. He even won the All-Star Game MVP that season. He led the National League in OPS and slugging for 3 straight years. He ended up with 521 career home runs, 439 as a first baseman. The 6-time All-Star also played for the Padres and A's and was inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1986. Number 5, Jeff Bagwell. Career Houston Astro and Hall of Famer Jeff Bagwell played 15 seasons, the entire time as a first baseman, and crushed a total of 449 home runs, averaging over 30 per season. He made his debut in 1991 and won the Rookie of the Year with a .294 batting average, 15 homers, and 82 RBIs. By '94, he was an absolute MLB superstar, crushing 39 home runs with a .368 average and an OPS over 1,200 before the season ended prematurely due to the strike. He was still awarded the MVP for his incredible year and a Gold Glove to go along with it. Bagwell continued to be an offensive threat for 10 years, making 4 All-Star teams and taking home 3 Silver Sluggers. He was also fast in his prime and has the career record for stolen bases as a first baseman. Unfortunately, major injury issues left him unable to play in more than 39 games in 2005, and he missed all of 2006 before retiring. But Bagwell hit .297 for his career with a .948 OPS, the 25th best career OPS in MLB history. Number 4, Eddie Murray. No one played in more games at first base than Hall of Famer Eddie Murray, with a total of 2,438 games over a 21-year career. He was an immediate phenom, hitting 27 bombs in 1977, taking home the Rookie of the Year award, and becoming the longtime first baseman for the Baltimore Orioles. During the 80s, he won 3 consecutive Gold Gloves, consistently hit around 300 with power, and could get on base like no one else. He crushed 2 bombs in the 1983 World Series, helping the O's win it all. Then led the league with a .410 on-base percentage in 1984. And although he never won an MVP, he finished in the top 5 6 times in his career, including a second-place finish in '83 and '84. He was eventually traded to the Dodgers, and in 1990 hit .330 with 26 bombs. In '95, he was a key member of a stacked Cleveland Indians team and hit .323 with 21 home runs, helping them to reach the World Series. Murray has the MLB record for RBIs as a switch hitter. He finished his career with 3,255 hits, 8 All-Star appearances, 3 Silver Sluggers, and is easily one of the greatest first basemen of all time. Number 3, Albert Pujols. At number 3 is the great Albert Pujols, who played over 2,000 games at first base and hit more career home runs than anyone else on today's list, with 703 total bombs. He burst onto the scene in 2001 with an insane rookie year, crushing 37 home runs with 130 RBIs, winning a Rookie of the Year and becoming an instant star. He never slowed down during his time in St. Louis, going on to win 3 MVPs while leading the league in multiple offensive categories. He also helped the Cardinals to 3 World Series appearances and 2 championships, winning an NLCS MVP in 2004 and hitting hitting .319 with 19 home runs in his postseason career. Earlier in his career, he was stellar defensively and won 2 Gold Gloves. The second half of his career, mostly in Anaheim, wasn't quite as spectacular, but he continued to crush home runs and eventually, after a year with the Dodgers, made his return to St. Louis in 2022, making his 11th and final All-Star team. He retired with a .296 average, 6 Silver Sluggers, a batting title, and a definite future plaque in the Hall of Fame. Number 2, Jimmie Foxx. Coming in at number 2 is the powerful Jimmie Foxx, who played mostly for the Philadelphia A's and Boston Red Sox. Of his 534 career home runs, he hit 521 as a first baseman, second in MLB history to only Mark Maguire. In the early 1930s, he was probably the most feared hitter in baseball. In 32, he hit .364 with a league-leading 58 home runs and 169 RBIs, easily taking home the MVP. And he followed it up with another MVP season in 33, winning the Triple Crown with 48 home runs, 163 RBIs, and a .356 batting average. He also won an MVP in 38 with the Red Sox and ended up playing 20 years with a .325 career average and career OPS of 1,038. He set a record by hitting at least 30 home runs in 12 consecutive seasons and had over 100 RBIs for 13 straight years. He was also a good defender with a powerful arm, retiring with a .990 fielding percentage. But his absolutely ridiculous offensive numbers are what makes him one of the greatest players in the history of the game and the second greatest first baseman. Number 1, Lou Gehrig. But coming in at number 1, hopefully to no one's surprise, is the all-time great Yankee legend Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse, who played in 2,130 consecutive games, a seemingly unbreakable record that somehow was eventually broken by Cal Ripken Jr. But Gehrig played through many injuries and even fractures, producing at an elite level year after year. He also set several other records during his incredible career, including career grand slams, which was eventually broken by Alex Rodriguez. Gehrig finished in the top 3 for MVP in 9 out of 11 seasons, winning the award twice, and ended his career with 493 home runs. If he had not tragically been stricken with ALS at just 36 years old, he would have easily surpassed 500 homers and likely retired with closer, if not more than 600. He was also a great fielder with quick feet, although his bat was certainly what made him a superstar. Gehrig hit .361 in the World Series, won 7 rings, and retired with an incredible batting average of .340 and a career OPS over 1,000. Among first basemen, he is first all time in runs, hits, triples, RBIs, walks, batting average, slugging, on-base percentage, OPS, and WAR, and he easily comes in at number 1. And that'll do it for today's video ranking the best first baseman in the modern era. Let me know your thoughts down below. And again, I know you'll let me know some of the great players who are missing. There was just too many first basemen to rank. I could have put another 20 honorable mentions. Jason Giambi, of course, Gil Hodges, Steve Garvey, who needs to be in the Hall of Fame, Mo Vaughn, John Olerud, Paul Konerko, but this is my top 15. Let me know your top 15 or your top 5 or whatever in that comment section. I hope you all have a great day, and we will talk to you in the next video.